Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton, how did they do this week? Both grappling with the past and trying to push things forward at the same time. Mrs. Clinton's presidential campaign is being dogged from everything from Benghazi to questions about the mountains of cash, which we talked about earlier here today. And while Bush hasn't formally announced that he's going to run, the former governor of Florida is working hard to get out from under his brother's shadow. Here's what he had to say about the budget during his brother's term. And this is sort of he was asked, actually, this question, how would you put space? What's different between the way your brother did things and the way you would do things? And here's the answer that he came up with yesterday. He said, I think that in Washington, during my brother's time, I think he could have used the veto power. He didn't have line item veto power, but he could have brought budget discipline to Washington, D.C. So let's see what everybody thinks about that. Katherine Timpf is a reporter for the National Review. Jessica Ehrlich is an attorney and former Florida Democratic congressional candidate. Welcome to both of you. It's good to have you here. So, obviously, Jeb Bush had a tough time with the Iraq question when he was asked by Megyn Kelly. So he spent the rest of the week sort of clarifying that. And now it looks as if he's moved on to sort of find a way that he can also show how he's his own man, as he says, through looking at spending, which is a big, big issue for conservatives. Right, Katherine?
Yes, and he did a way better job, obviously. This one, it's tough because he needs to look like he is loyal to his family, but at the same time be able to criticize things that his brother did wrong. So saying, he could have done a better job with spending, I mean, who couldn't have, really? That was a pretty easy way to put it. The Iraq thing was concerning because he wasn't prepared at all, and he had to know that he'd be asked about that. So that was really worrisome about his ability to even be a candidate more than even what he said itself, really.
Yeah. There were some focus groups that we saw some of this week, Jessica. And clearly, the last name is an issue for some people out there. So he's walking a fine line of sort of embracing the history and the experience that his family has and also being his own guy.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, he definitely has his own career, but certainly, as he even said himself this past week, he's got what he called 800 years of political experience because, the last 3 Republican presidents have all been his direct family members. So there's a lot of, sort of a little bit of time, I think, that he has in order to be able to identify to the American people, not just Floridians who obviously already know him as governor, as to who he is himself and what he would do as president that maybe would be different or similar to his brother and his father.
Yeah, and Hillary Clinton is also having a bit of a tough week. As we said, we're waiting for these Benghazi emails to come out. Whether there's going to be anything new in them is really hard to say because we know there are 30,000 emails on the server that were destroyed. So we'll see what we get in all of this. But Katherine, she has been putting off the press essentially since she decided to run. But this week she decided, with the prompting from Ed Henry, that it was time to answer some questions. And here's the awkward exchange that led to that.
Yeah, just wait. Yeah, maybe when I finish talking to the people here. How's that? I might. I'll have to ponder it, but I will put it on my list for due consideration.
Catherine, what do you think? I mean, how'd she do with that? Does that help her or hurt her, that moment?
Well, who knows what she would have said if she would have answered questions, so there's no way to know how bad she would be. Maybe really bad, because this is getting ridiculous. She's not going to be able to do this forever. We still have a long way before the election. And even when she's sort of answering questions, she's not really answering. She's asked about her old friend Sid, and she starts saying, hey, it's great to have old friends, and she goes into that. Clearly, that's not what the question was about. You're not a Hallmark card. You're a candidate. The question was about Libya. Eventually, this is going to have to really hurt her because it makes her look almost incompetent or corrupt. Both bad things.
Yeah. What do you think, Jessica? I mean, does anybody care about this who, will be voting, or are they paying attention yet, or do they care how Hillary answers that question, or if she puts off the press, are they happy she's doing that, or are they not happy?
I mean, I think that's a really good point. What she's doing right now, and I think what also Jeb Bush is doing, I mean, these are the 2 front runners that we have right now for the presidential election, is they're actually trying to talk to voters and get out there. And really, that's what we want to see as American voters, is that the candidates are out and talking with people and listening and getting across what their voice is. And the press is going to be swarming for a long time. And I think for both Jeb and Hillary, they're kind of damned if they do and damned if they don't right now. Yeah. I mean, there are people who really dislike them on both sides, and whether it's on the left or the right, they're going to be attacked for whatever it is they say right now. So let them go and be candidates and do the outreach they need to do to the actual voters who will hopefully be voting for either one of them or for someone else coming up in the next election, and then let the press really get into it when we get closer to the actual election time.
I'm going to put you both on the
There's
spot
plenty
here
to write about these folks.
Yeah. So Katherine, let me start with you. Are these the two that we end up with? Because when I get off here, there's going to be a bunch of tweets that were sent to me that say that's not going to be the combination. That's not who's going to run in the end. What do you think?
I sure hope not. I gotta say, I think voters would be really frustrated and be like, how is this different from just a political dynasty situation? I really hope not, but it's so early to tell. There's so many ways that people could still mess up.
Who do you think's the most prominent other person out there?
I don't know. Sorry. It's so early to tell.
It is early. It's early. What about you, Jessica?
Well, I'm just excited, as a Floridian, to have two, prominent Floridian Republicans. We've got Rubio and Jeb Bush there. I think it's so exciting, particularly as, we're producing more and more people and leaders from this state.
So you're going to vote for one of them?
I'm just excited to see how that's going to play out. Oh, I'm the Democrat here, so I don't get to vote in my primary situation there. But it'll be, really interesting to see. Yeah. So I'm just excited we're getting some more time on the big stage.
Absolutely. Jessica, Katherine, thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
Right about 10 minutes before the hour, a special thank you for American veterans, what one group is doing to support troops this Memorial Weekend and every other weekend as well. Special story next.